We're now in June, which means it's summertime. So while you're installing your air conditioners, we'll catch you up on what's been happening in the world of board games here in the Roll for Crit News Roundup.
From time to time, real-world news becomes so big that we have to include it in some way in our board game news show, and this is one of those times. As I'm sure you're aware, protests have been going on all around the country the last few weeks over the death of George Floyd and general racial injustice and police brutality in the United States. And a number of board game companies have come to take part and speak out and make their presence known and their voices heard in this time. Many publishers posted on Twitter in support of Black Lives Matter in the past week. Last week, there was a Blackout Tuesday in which many networks, including ourselves, took the day off from social media in order to better promote Black voices and the voices of people of color in the industry and elsewhere. There have been a number of movements from people like Elizabeth Hargrave, designer of Wingspan, who this past weekend sold a lot of her Wingspan games, and all of those proceeds went to Black Lives Matter. The same is true for the game Rap Gods, which was a Kickstarter game about becoming a hip-hop star. They had a big movement thanks to a number of people who came together, where for every copy of that game sold, they donated $100 to the Black Lives Matter movement. Elizabeth Hargrave, again, also created a great list on her website of a number of Black voices in the board game community, people that you can follow. People have been working hard, coming together to try to show support for those communities, even just in our industry alone. Another one that I want to mention is Our Family Plays Games, who has been a frequent commenter and friend of Roll for Crit on YouTube and social media, and they got a really nice shout out on Twitter from Watch It Played. Their channel has been growing a lot recently, so it has been very heartwarming, I think, in spite of all the tragedy and terrible things going on in our country, to see the people in the board game community specifically. Of course, they are doing so in other places, but our purview is to board games right now, coming together for this and finding ways to show their support and emphasize these other voices and marginalized groups who otherwise aren't always heard. Eric Lang is another one, of course, we have to highlight. Very prominent game designer, I'm sure everybody knows, and he's been posting about his experiences in general with the police and racism and dealing with that in the industry. We're going to have links to all that stuff and some more resources that you can take a look at in the description down below. But, we thought it was important to talk about it here at the top of the show, acknowledge it, and say that we too are, again, in support of the Black Lives Matter movement. Black lives do matter. And we're trying to, in our small part as well, try to help this movement go.
We are not the biggest channel by any means, but we hope that you take the time after hearing this to look at the links down below and either donate to any of the worthy causes, or even just maybe read up and learn on some of the stuff of what's happening right now and how we got here. This is now the time to listen, but also the time to take what you've listened to and bring it into action.
And if you or anyone you know is a person of color in the community who has a platform or a website that you want to highlight or promote, absolutely feel free to do that in the comments on this video. That would be awesome. And we'd love to hear from you too if you have any suggestions for us as to how we could possibly improve ourselves and help things and help the movement going forward.
In an earlier video, we discussed how many conventions have been canceled this year due to COVID-19, and how other companies are sort of picking up the slack by making digital conventions. This last weekend, Renegade actually held their own digital convention, in which you can go on to play some of their RPGs or board games through online. I actually had the chance to play The Search for Planet X, which we'll probably talk a bit more in our podcast. But there's another convention announcement. Cryptozoic is doing a second one. There, they'll now talk a bit more about their products. They'll also actually have some special convention exclusives on sale in their marketplace during that time for the convention. So if you are interested in these digital conventions, definitely check them out because they're a great place to play games with people without having to be at the same table.
Yeah, it's cool that obviously Cryptozoic thought the first one was successful enough that they're holding another one pretty quickly after that. And unfortunately, we didn't have a ton of time to check out as much as I would have liked to for Renegade Con, but From what I saw about it, it looks like they really did everything right. I loved the way they had everything clearly laid out on the website for where you could get tickets and attend the panels or tournaments. And it seems like they really put together a great model going forward that I hope other conventions follow.
Well, not only that, Jonathan, there was a Discord you join in to be part of it, and that's how you got to sign up for if you connect the audio to play games and stuff. But they had channels for example, another big one for me is the Power Rangers one, and there's discussion about that, like people talking about who's their favorite Ranger, or like what team should be next. So you'd also get these sort of great places where you're like, oh, I like this game, where can I go? It's you just search the channel and you're already there. It's very convenient. And I think these kind of digital conventions should be something we should look forward even after the pandemic era ends.
By the power of Grayskull, CMON has the power to publish a brand new board game based on the Masters of the Universe series. They are partnering with Mattel to publish this game. It will be a miniatures game coming to Kickstarter sometime in 2021. We do not have many gameplay specific details yet, but we do know it's going to come from some of the designers who worked on games such as Bloodborne, the board game, as well as the Song of Ice and Fire miniatures game. And of course, it will include many of the classic characters from the Masters of the Universe series. They did show off a little bit of artwork that could be a representation of the type of artwork we're likely to see once the game is released. Now, I have to confess something to you. I am not a He-Man fan. I've never watched an episode of He-Man or Masters of the Universe or anything related in my life. But Will, I think you have a little bit more knowledge than I do. What do you think, and what do you maybe hope to see from this?
Not too much, I will say. I have watched a bit of the original show back when I was younger, and I did watch the remake they made a while back. I think it was the early 2000s. Conceptually, it's an interesting idea. I know that there's a huge cast for you to mess around and play with, though. Some of them have very weird names, and I wonder how. I mean, they were made to be toys, but some of those are like toys with gimmicks. I wonder if they'll use those in this and stuff. And I think this would be a great place for them to have a bit more of a 3D board. I mean, Castle Grayskull and Snake Mountain, I think it is. I can't remember the name of Skaldor's base, but they're very 3D aspects because they were toy sets. So that could be something cool for them to take advantage of.
Yeah, use some of that toy-like quality. That would be cool. I wonder if it's going to be, I don't think they said if it would be like a cooperative game or if one player would control the bad guys. I wonder what direction they're going to take that. Or if it's more like a fully, along the lines of a traditional miniatures game, and it's more like you're taking pieces and characters from different areas and putting them together in factions or something like that. We'll have to wait and see when it launches in 2021.
Now, what I would be curious about is that if this does well, obviously you expand the He-Man universe, which would include She-Ra. Now, She-Ra has an old cartoon too, and they had a reboot, but unlike the He-Man one, which I'm sure a lot of people are like, what? She-Ra's one has been very popular on Netflix, and a lot of people said it's a very good show. I have not watched it. So I'm curious how they would decide to do that, because I know some people would be like, why can't I get this version? Why can't I get that one? So
sounds like a great opportunity to sell you the same thing twice with different artwork.
Maybe. Funko has a new game coming to toy shelves soon, but they're not Funko Pops. This is a new collectible game titled Marvel Battleworld Mystery of the Thanos Stones. Each of these capsules will include 2 little minifigures that, as far as I can tell, don't look like they're based off the Funko Pop style, as well as some cards for you to battle and play against Thanos. It seems to be a cooperative game, a collectible cooperative game, aimed at children for them to pick up in toy stores, maybe add to their collection to fight together. It's interesting because it's the first time I'm surprised they're not using the Funko symbols. I wonder if that's just another one of those weird things of like copyright issues or something, or they don't want to get it confused with their other Funko Pop game.
That could be. Yeah, I'm just wondering, why are they called the Thanos stones and not the Infinity Stones or Infinity Gems?
I think the idea probably behind it will be like, there's only 5. Is it 5 Infinity Stones or 6?
5, maybe 6. 6. How many? I don't know.
Oh God, we should know this. But This way they could be like, there's 27. Wait, the new set adds another 3. They're trying to be able to have a bit more wiggle room with what they're allowed to do with.
Yeah, this does look like the kind of thing that if I were a kid, I would have thought was really cool.
There is actually a little animation, so it might have a cartoon that comes with it. or that they're going to produce alongside of it. And what was interesting was the characters they show were Iron Man and Captain Marvel, normal. But then we also got the Thor Frog. I don't know if he has a name, but and Spider Pig or Spider Ham. So interesting cast of characters to say the least.
The Pokemon trading card game has been around and very successful for a number of years. They have announced an intriguing new product known as Pokemon trading card game Battle Academy. This is a box that includes 3 60-card pre-made decks for the Pokemon game, fully playable, as well as a set of accessories mostly designed for new players, although accessible for veterans as well. Some tutorials and rules that are designed to ease people into the game, as well as a board that can be used as, essentially a playmat, but it's on cardboard stock for you to lay out all of your cards and where they need to go and your pieces and everything for you to play a game right out of the box, ready, set, go, without having to worry about collectibles and buying booster packs, although these will, of course, be compatible with any of the other standard cards that you find for the Pokemon trading card game. I think this was an interesting announcement when it first came out. It seemed like they were marketing it, and maybe still are, as more of a board game style collection. I think people weren't sure, is this a new thing? Is this like a new game based on the Pokemon trading card game? And I kind of feel like they're trying to get that idea across, but it really is just a set of 3 decks. So I don't know if they're going to attempt to make this feel like a standalone set that people are buying, or if this is something more like a jumping off point that you can buy if you're a fan or a newcomer, just to get you some new decks under your belt to get into it.
Well, a lot of these collectible card games are very worried about making a board game version too. I know Magic tried multiple ways and didn't seem to pan out too well. They had the one where it didn't involve the card game at all, which was miniatures, which is not the greatest game. And then there was another one, which was, I think, called Explorers of Ixalan or something, which it had a board but you still played regular decks of Magic cards. So this seems more like that, where the collectible card game component is still a major input, in which I still feel like you might as well just play the card game, usually if the card game's worth it.
I wonder who exactly they're marketing this to. It seems like obviously towards new players for a way to get them to jump in. But it is strange that they call it Battle Academy, which to me does make it seem like this is a spin-off, but it really, in terms of its substance, is just a set of pre-made decks that you could mess with, just like buying any decks that they've sold in the past. So it's kind of a strange thing. I wish they had maybe dived further in one direction or the other and really said, oh, this is a totally standalone spin-off thing that takes some of those ideas, but maybe this is the non-collectible version, or almost more like maybe they do an LCG style model for Pokemon in some sense. Could be an interesting thing for them to try, but it's been selling so well for so many years as they're doing it, so what reason is there really for them to shake things up?
In our previous Kickstarter videos, we mentioned Kemet Blood and Sand, which is a remake of the Kemet game with some new updated rules and pieces. And there was this weird green pyramid, which was announced to be part of a Cthulhu expansion. Well, not only that, but some other issues people have complained about. They have announced they are changing things up. What they decided to do is they're going to change the minis out and not make it Cthulhu themed. It's going to have some of the Egyptian gods instead. However, if you are interested, both Cthulhu and Nyarlathotep with their little power tiles will be available as a small sort of mini expansion you can buy on the Kickstarter.
This might be one of the fastest turnarounds I've ever seen for a publisher changing their mind about something based on customer feedback. And I think it speaks to the power and the use of Kickstarter, ideally, when it's done right.
I was about to say, when used correctly.
Yeah, is that, they didn't have to wait until they were too far in development to change anything. They saw right away, oh, people are saying they're tired of Cthulhu or they don't think it has a place in this universe, so we just won't do it. We'll just listen to our fans and do what they want. They're the ones backing this. They're the ones paying for this. And that takes, in some ways, guts to just do what people say and be willing to change your mind on things. And yeah, I don't know how you feel. I know you love Cthulhu a lot, but I do think in this case it kind of seemed like it's a little cliche, right?
It's a little weird. Nyarlathotep, I'd be like, okay, he has a lot of Egyptian connections, but Cthulhu felt very pasted in. I like it as a small pack. I think that makes more sense because then it's like, it makes me think of Dexter and Alvin from Ticket to Ride.
Uh-huh.
Something very weird. Like, you don't think about that for Ticket to Ride, but I think it's a small bonus is how that should go, and something a bit more out of the norm, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree. I think that makes sense. And it's good that they're listening to people, and now it'll be thematically consistent for everybody who wants to enjoy it. Some big new releases to cover before we go. Evil Dead 2 is finally making its way to retail and into the hands of Kickstarter backers after Jasco Games picked it up. This is a trader game that takes place during the events of Evil Dead 2, the movie, of course. We also have Forgotten Waters released from Plaid Hat Games, a pirate-themed game that makes use of an app, and it also is their latest Crossroads game, a narrative story, scenario-based games where you'll be playing together with friends, discovering new islands and changing things in the story depending on how your actions carried out. Santa Monica is a new release from AEG. This one sees you shaping your version of Southern California, drafting cards to build up your area of the beach or nearby streets to attract the most tourists possible. In Tang Garden, you're trying to build the best garden that you can in the Tang Dynasty era of China. This is a tile placement game and also a card drafting game. You're attempting to decorate your garden in the most beautiful way possible. 2 new versions of the Undo series are also available now. Forbidden Knowledge, which deals with a cemetery and perhaps some Lovecraftian dealings, and Treasure Fever, which sees you in a jungle and dealing with an airplane parachute mishap. This is a series of story-based deduction games where you're attempting to go back in time and prevent the lives of people from being lost.
Fantasy Flight Games has a bunch of LCG packs out now. For Marvel Champions, we have the Black Widow Hero Pack. For Arkham Horror, we have the Weaver of the Cosmos finishing up that cycle. For Lord of the Rings, we have Under the Ash Mountain. And for Legend of the Five Rings, we have Spreading Shadows. That's a whole lot of packs for a bunch of different games, so check out the one that fits the games you play. We've also got an X-Wings solo rules set. You can check out a link down below so you can play the X-Wing game by yourself. We've also got Ticket to Ride Stay at Home, another print and play expansion for Ticket to Ride, in which instead of having trains, you're playing as, well, a family members in a own house, trying to do chores of maybe like make it from your bedroom to the work office. Finally, we actually have another bit of Arkham Horror, and this is a book. The Arkham Horror book, The Blood of Balshandor, I think I'm not saying that right, but oh well, will follow the famous magician Dexter through a little story of his. He's actually one of the famous sort of magic users, which I think is in most of the Arkham file line games, or maybe not, missing in a few, but he's one of the original ones. So definitely check that out. And it does come with a promo card for the Arkham Horror card game.
Always good. A lot of big, intriguing releases this week. A bunch of them, too, are ones that we have coming to us or going to have up for review soon. So, I mean, I've been following Evil Dead for so long. Forgotten Waters I've been pretty hyped for as well. Obviously, some of these LCG packs we're both excited about. So
that's right.
There's a lot.
And I mean, the print and plays are pretty cool. The solo thing sounds really interesting, how they use the AI for the ships. But the Ticket to Ride thing, I love the idea behind it. It's sort of clever because it does feel like sometimes it's a bit of work, at least for me, to get from bed to where I need to go for work. I just can never get the blue cards.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's cute. It's really cute how they're doing that. All these print and play things have been a lot of fun. Let us know in the comments. What are you buying this week? Are you looking forward to playing? Are you able to maybe start playing some of it with people in person? Are you making that leap yet? Or are you holding off still? Or are there any other news stories you want to talk about? I know there's some lighter stuff, some heavier stuff this week, but a lot of stuff worth discussing. So please feel free to do so in the comments section down below. And of course, check our description again for links to a lot of different resources and things that we talked about this week that are important, I think, for you to check out.
Until then, I'm Will.
I'm Jonathan.
And this has been Roll for Crit.
Support our Patreon, like this video, and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss a thing.
Watch more of our content now to hold back Cthulhu's madness.